I never believed in fate. As an anthropologist, I relied on facts, research, and the tangible remnants of human history to explain the world. But looking back, I wonder if some unseen force guided me to that village in Sweden, to the place where my identity would start slipping through my fingers like sand. It began with an email. Dr. Daniel Foster, we invite you to the Festival of Echoes, a once-in-a-decade event in our village of Hfor. Your expertise in cultural anthropology would be invaluable in documenting our sacred traditions. Travel arrangements will be taken care of. Please confirm your attendance before June 10th. No sender name, no official signature. Just those words, as if the invitation had been waiting for me to find it. I was intrigued. The solstice celebrations in Nordic cultures fascinated me, and a festival shrouded in secrecy was too tempting to ignore. I had spent years studying rituals across the world, always searching for traditions that had resisted modern influence. If this festival was truly as ancient and untouched as it claimed to be, I had to see it for myself. And so, on June 16th, 2016, I landed in Sweden. I was met by a man named Eric at the airport, a tall, quiet Swede with a strong grip and an expression that never quite softened. He barely spoke as we drove deeper into the countryside. The roads narrowed, the forests thickened, and soon we left the modern world behind. The village appeared out of nowhere, tucked between dense pine trees and rolling hills. Wooden houses with moss-covered roofs stood in clusters, smoke curling from their chimneys. There were no cars, no power lines. It felt like I had traveled back in time. As Eric parked the car, a group of villagers gathered near the entrance, their eyes fixed on me. They were dressed in traditional Nordic clothing, simple tunics and embroidered aprons. Some smiled warmly, others just watched. An elderly woman stepped forward, taking my hands in hers. "Welcome home, Elias," she said. I blinked. "I think you have the wrong..." She squeezed my hands. "You must be tired from the journey. Come, let us take care of you." Confused, I glanced at Eric, but he was already unloading my bags. The villagers guided me inside a large wooden hall, where candlelight flickered against the walls. The air smelled of burning herbs and something faintly metallic. I set down my notebook and took a cautious step forward. The floor creaked beneath my feet. A long table was set for a feast, wooden plates arranged neatly with steaming bowls of stew, dark bread, and pitchers of golden liquid. The villagers took their seats, murmuring in Swedish. A man at the head of the table raised his cup. "To new beginnings," he said, looking straight at me. The others echoed him, their voices blending into a single, ringing note. I hesitated before lifting my own cup. The moment the liquid touched my lips, a strange warmth spread through my body, making the edges of the room blur for just a second. I shook my head to clear it. Something wasn't right. The villagers were smiling, their faces filled with something I couldn't quite name. Not happiness. Not kindness. Something deeper, older. I forced a smile and took a bite of the stew. The meat was tender, the spices unfamiliar. As I chewed, my gaze wandered across the room, and that's when I noticed them. The paintings on the walls. Dozens of them. Faces of men and women, each wearing the same expression of quiet acceptance. Some were faded, others fresh, their colors still vibrant. Then I saw it. A painting of a man who looked exactly like me. Same dark hair, same sharp nose, same deep-set eyes. My stomach twisted. I turned to Eric, but he was already looking at me, his expression unreadable. "Eat, Elias," he said softly. I swallowed hard. My name wasn't Elias, but as I sat there, surrounded by strangers who seemed to know me, I felt a strange doubt creep into my mind. Wasn't it? I forced another bite of the stew into my mouth, though my stomach churned with unease. The warmth from the drink still lingered in my veins, making my limbs feel sluggish, as if the world had slowed just slightly. Around me, the villagers continued their feast, laughing, drinking, speaking in Swedish. Every now and then, a pair of eyes would linger on me, watching, waiting. I looked back at the painting on the wall. The man in it wasn't just similar to me, he was identical. Same sharp jawline, same tired eyes. But that wasn't possible, was it? My breathing grew unsteady. I turned to Eric, lowering my voice. "Who is he?" Eric paused, his expression calm, unreadable. He set his drink down carefully before answering. "He was here before." I frowned. "Before what?" Before he could answer, the elderly woman who had greeted me earlier stood, lifting a carved wooden staff in her hands. The room fell silent at once. Even the flames of the candles seemed to flicker in anticipation. She turned to me, smiling warmly. "Elias," she said again, and the name sent a shiver down my spine. "Tonight, we celebrate your return." I opened my mouth to correct her, but the moment I did, the villagers began to hum. It was a low, vibrating sound, something deep in their throats that seemed to press against my skin. My fingers curled against the wooden table as an uncomfortable heat rose in my chest. She moved closer, placing a hand on my shoulder. "Do not fight it. It is a gift." "What is?" My voice sounded distant, as if I were hearing myself from underwater. She smiled. "Memory." The hum grew louder. I felt dizzy, the edges of my vision swimming. The candlelight blurred into streaks of gold. I looked down at my hands, gripping the edge of the table. Except for a brief, horrible moment, they weren't my hands. They were someone else's. A memory, no, a thought, flashed through my mind. Something alien yet familiar. A voice I didn't recognize whispered inside my skull. "You've been here before." I gasped and pushed back from the table. My chair scraped against the wooden floor as I stumbled to my feet. The villagers didn't stop me. They just watched, some smiling, others nodding as if they had expected this reaction. The elderly woman gently took my arm. "You are safe," she said softly. "Your past will return to you soon." I yanked my arm away, breath coming fast. "My name is Daniel," I snapped. "Not Elias." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some of the villagers exchanged glances, and I swore I saw disappointment in their eyes, like a mother watching a child fail a simple lesson. Eric sighed and stood up. "Come, you need rest." I wanted to argue, to demand answers, but my head was pounding. The warmth from the drink now felt thick, heavy, pressing against my skull. My legs barely worked as Eric guided me toward the door. As we stepped outside, the cool night air hit me like a slap. The village was quiet, the streets lined with torches that flickered against the wooden houses. I tried to shake the dizziness, but my thoughts felt tangled, threads slipping through my grasp every time I tried to focus. I looked up at the sky, at the never-setting sun of the solstice. It should have comforted me. Instead, it felt wrong. Too bright. Too long. Eric led me to a small house at the edge of the village. It was simple, wooden walls, a thatched roof, a single door. The inside was just as modest, with a bed covered in thick wool blankets, a small table, and a basin of water. "You should sleep," Eric said. I shook my head. "I need answers. Who was that man in the painting? Why do they keep calling me Elias?" Eric hesitated. For the first time since I met him, he looked almost sad. "It will be easier if you don't fight it," he said finally. "Sleep." He stepped outside and closed the door behind him. I rushed to it immediately, trying the handle. It wouldn't budge. Locked. A tight knot of panic formed in my chest. I turned, scanning the room for something, anything that might give me an explanation. That's when I saw them. Clothes, neatly folded on the chair, a tunic, trousers, boots. I picked them up, my pulse hammering. They smelled faintly of pine and something else, something old. A chill crept up my spine as I noticed the embroidery on the sleeve. A name, stitched in delicate thread. Elias. My hands began to tremble. Somewhere outside, in the distance, the villagers began to hum again. I dropped the clothes as if they had burned me. The name stitched into the fabric, Elias, was staring back at me, mocking me. My breath came in quick, uneven gasps. My head was still swimming from the drink, but fear was quickly cutting through the haze. I had to get out. I stumbled toward the small window near the bed. The wooden frame was stiff, but after a few sharp tugs it gave way and I pushed it open. The village outside was eerily quiet, but the torches still flickered, casting long shadows against the houses. I swung my legs over the sill, careful not to make a sound, and dropped to the ground. My feet landed on the damp earth with a soft thud. My heart pounded as I crouched, scanning my surroundings. The main hall was still lit, and I could hear faint murmurs coming from inside. I didn't know how long I had before someone checked on me. I turned toward the path leading out of the village. My body felt sluggish, my legs unsteady, but I pushed forward, stepping as lightly as I could. Then I heard it. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming from behind one of the houses to my right. I froze, pressing myself against the nearest wall, my breath shallow. The footsteps paused, and for a moment, all I could hear was the crackling of the torches and the distant hum of the villagers. Then a voice, low, familiar. Elias. A shudder ran through me. It was Eric. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to stay still. He was close. Too close. "Come back inside," he said, his voice calm, patient. "It's late. You need rest." I clenched my fists. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but something in his tone made my blood turn to ice. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't even a request. It was expectant. As if he knew I wouldn't leave. As if I had done this before. I forced myself to take a step backward, my muscles tense. A twig snapped beneath my foot. Silence. Then, Eric sighed. "Don't make this harder than it has to be." I ran. My legs burned as I sprinted toward the trees, my breath ragged. The torchlight faded behind me, swallowed by the thick shadows of the forest. I didn't know where I was going, only that I had to put as much distance as possible between me and that village. Branches tore at my arms, my feet slipping on the damp ground. But I kept going. My heartbeat roared in my ears, drowning out everything else. Then, up ahead, I saw it. A road. Relief flooded my chest. If I could follow it, I could find help. Civilization. A way out. I burst onto the dirt road, panting, sweat dripping down my forehead. I turned, ready to follow it, and stopped dead. My breath caught in my throat. The village was in front of me. I had run in a circle. My lungs burned as I stood frozen at the edge of the village, my mind struggling to make sense of what had just happened. I had run straight into the forest, away from the village. And yet, here I was, standing right where I had started. The torches still flickered. The houses looked exactly the same. The feast hall was still lit from within, the faint murmur of voices drifting through the open windows. I turned sharply, looking back at the road I had just come from. The dirt path stretched into the trees, disappearing into darkness. I had run straight. I knew I had. And yet somehow my footsteps had led me in a perfect circle. Number not a circle. A trap. My heartbeat pounded against my ribs. The villagers had done something to me, to my mind. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms. I had to try again. Without wasting another second, I turned and ran. The trees blurred past me, my breath coming in sharp gasps. This time I paid attention. I broke branches as I passed, kicked over stones, left marks in the dirt with my boots. Anything to prove to myself that I wasn't just imagining things. I ran until my legs ached, until my vision blurred from exhaustion, until I saw it again. The village. I skidded to a stop, stumbling forward, barely able to keep my balance. My marks, the broken branches, the footprints were gone. It was as if I had never left. I shook my head, my hands trembling. No, this isn't possible. A slow clap echoed behind me. I spun around. Eric stood at the entrance of the village, arms crossed. His face was calm, unreadable, but there was something in his eyes. a quiet understanding, like he had seen this happen 100 times before. "You're starting to remember," he said. My mouth was dry. "Remember what?" He took a step closer. "That you belong here." A shiver crawled down my spine. I backed away, but he didn't move to stop me. Instead, he tilted his head slightly, studying me like a teacher watching a student struggle through a lesson. I shook my head. "I'm not Elias." Eric didn't argue. He just sighed, his shoulders relaxing slightly. "You always say that at first." A cold wave of nausea rolled through me. "You think this is the first time you've tried to leave?" Eric asked, his voice gentle. I swallowed hard. "It is." He gave me a sad smile. "No, Daniel, it isn't." The words hit me like a punch to the stomach. I wanted to reject them, to scream that he was lying, but deep down, a horrible thought was clawing its way into my mind. What if I had done this before? What if I had already tried to escape? And what if I had forgotten? My legs felt weak. I staggered back, my mind racing, trying to fight the thought that Eric had planted in me. "This isn't the first time you've tried to leave." That was impossible. I would remember, wouldn't I? I shook my head violently, gripping my temples as if I could force clarity back into my brain. "You're lying." Eric didn't argue. He just watched me with that same calm, patient expression, like a teacher waiting for his student to catch up. "I don't belong here," I insisted. "I'm Daniel Foster. I'm an anthropologist. I was invited here. I flew into Sweden. I remember." My voice faltered. A flicker of doubt rippled through me. I remembered getting the invitation. I remembered stepping off the plane. But as I tried to recall the details, the name of the airline, the color of the seats, the feeling of the airport floor beneath my shoes, everything was fuzzy, like an old photograph with its edges blurred. A cold chill settled in my chest. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to push back the rising panic. It's just stress. The drink, the festival messing with my head. But the more I tried to grasp my memories, the more they slipped through my fingers. I looked up at Eric, my breathing shallow. "What did you do to me?" He sighed, his expression softening. "It's not what we did to you, Daniel. It's what's always been happening." A gust of wind passed through the trees, rustling the leaves. The distant hum of the villagers carried through the air, steady, rhythmic, like a heartbeat beneath the ground. I swallowed hard. I just got here." Eric's gaze darkened slightly. "Then why does the village know your name?" I opened my mouth to answer, but no words came out. Why did the villagers greet me as if they already knew me? Why was my name, Elias, stitched into the clothes left for me? I stepped back again, my legs trembling. This isn't real. You've drugged me, or hypnotized me, or..." Eric finally took a step forward, his eyes full of something I couldn't quite place. Pity. Understanding. "You always fight it, Daniel," he said. "But the truth always finds you in the end." I turned and bolted. I didn't care where I was going. I just needed to run, to move, to escape the suffocating pull of Eric's words. My feet pounded against the dirt, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The village blurred past me. I didn't stop, not even when I heard voices calling my name. Then, suddenly, I wasn't running anymore. I was standing, in the exact same spot. The village stretched before me, unchanged. My chest heaved, my fingers curled into my palms. I had run, but I had never left. I stood there, panting, my body trembling with exhaustion and fear. My mind refused to accept what I was seeing. I had run as fast and as far as my legs could carry me, but I was back where I started. A sick feeling twisted in my stomach. This wasn't just a trick of the landscape. I had felt myself running in a straight line. The burning in my legs, the sharp branches that had scraped my arms. It was real. And yet, the village stood in front of me, unchanged, as if my attempt to escape had never happened. I turned sharply to Eric, my chest rising and falling with each labored breath. He was still there, standing in the same spot, watching me with that patient look, like a shepherd waiting for a lost sheep to realize there was no way off the pasture. I clenched my fists. What the hell is happening to me? Eric tilted his head slightly. The mind only recognizes walls when it tries to push past them. You're feeling the edges now. I swallowed hard. What walls? His eyes darkened just a fraction. The ones that keep you here. My pulse pounded in my ears. This isn't real. It can't be real. Eric sighed, his expression unreadable. Denial is always the hardest part. I shook my head violently. No! I'm not Elias. I'm Daniel Foster. I have a life outside of this place. I turned to one of the villagers who had stepped out of a nearby house, a woman with long, braided blonde hair. She had been at the feast earlier. She had smiled at me like she knew me. I grabbed her by the arms, my fingers digging into the soft fabric of her tunic. Tell them you don't know me. My voice cracked with desperation. She didn't pull away. She just looked at me with quiet, knowing eyes. You are home, she whispered. I stumbled back, my stomach lurching. Stop saying that, I rasped. I don't belong here. The woman gave me a small, almost sympathetic smile. That's what the others said too, but they learned. My blood turned cold. What others? She gestured toward the feast hall, where the candlelight flickered against the wooden walls. Slowly, my eyes followed her motion, moving past the open door. And then I saw them. The paintings. They weren't just decorations. They were portraits, dozens of them. My breath hitched, the people in them. They all had the same expression, a quiet, almost serene acceptance, and they all looked familiar. My knees nearly gave out as I spotted him. The man with my face. No, one of the men with my face. Because there wasn't just one. There were several, each one slightly different, slightly older, different versions of me. Eric's voice was soft. Now do you understand? I staggered backward, my pulse hammering in my skull. I had been here before, again, and again, and again. My stomach twisted as I stared at the paintings. My mind screamed at me to reject what I was seeing, but the evidence was right there, staring back at me. Different versions of me. Some paintings were faded, their colors dulled with age. Others looked fresh, the paint still rich and deep. Each one showed a man with my face captured at different moments in time. Some were younger, some older, but they all had the same expression, serene, resigned, as if they had accepted something. I stumbled backward, shaking my head violently. Number, this is a trick, some sick joke. You painted these to mess with me. Eric took a step forward, calm as ever. If it were a trick, Daniel, why do you feel like you've seen them before? My breath caught in my throat. Because I had. Flashes of something, memories, rushed through my head. I saw myself sitting in this very hall, surrounded by villagers, just like at the feast earlier. But in this memory, it wasn't tonight. It was another time. A different year. A different version of me. The air felt too thick. My skin burned, my fingers tingling like my body was rejecting itself. I gritted my teeth. Number, no, you're trying to mess with my head. I grabbed a wooden chair, gripping it so hard my knuckles turned white. I am Daniel Foster. I live in New York. I have a life outside of this place. Eric nodded, his voice steady. You did. The way he said it, past tense, made something snap inside me. I threw the chair. It crashed against the wall, splintering into pieces. Some of the villagers flinched, but most remained still, watching me with the patience of people who had seen this happen before. Let me go, I demanded, my voice breaking. Eric sighed. There is nowhere to go. I turned sharply, running for the door, shoving past the woman with the braids. I didn't care if I had already tried to escape. I would try again and again until I got out. But the moment I stepped out of the feast hall, I stopped. Because standing in the village square was a group of villagers, and they were all wearing the same face. Not my face, not Eric's, but identical to each other. Men, women, even children, like they had all been copied from a single person. My breath hitched. Some of them smiled. Others simply watched. But none of them spoke. I took a shaky step backward. "What is this?" I whispered. Eric's voice came from behind me. "The truth." I turned to face him, my heart pounding. "You were never meant to leave, Daniel," he said. "None of us were." A fresh wave of nausea rolled through me. None of us? My mind spun, a horrifying realization creeping in. It wasn't just me who had been here before. It was all of them. My hands trembled as I stared at the villagers in the square, their faces eerily identical. My mind fought against the logic of what I was seeing, but no explanation made sense. People weren't supposed to look exactly the same. Not like this. My chest tightened as I turned to Eric, my voice barely a whisper. "What do you mean none of us were meant to leave?" Eric stepped forward, his expression calm but unreadable. "You're beginning to remember." My stomach twisted. "Remember what?" The humming started again. The villagers, the ones with matching faces, began to hum in unison, a low, vibrating sound that made my skin crawl. It wasn't a song. It wasn't even words. It was something deeper, something that reached inside me and twisted like fingers pressing into my brain. I clutched my head, squeezing my eyes shut. My heartbeat roared in my ears. Flashes of something, no, of me, rushed through my mind. I saw myself standing in this same village square. But it wasn't tonight. It was years ago. The villagers surrounded me, smiling, waiting. A different Eric stood before me, younger, his hair a little darker, his face a little less tired. He was saying the same words he was saying now. "You were never meant to leave, Daniel." I gasped, stumbling back. The memory hit me like a punch to the chest. I had been here before, not once, not twice, over and over. My legs wobbled as I turned to Eric, my breath coming in short, panicked bursts. "What is this place?" His gaze softened. "A home for the forgotten." I shook my head violently. No, I have a home. I have a life. "Do you?" Eric asked quietly. My lips parted, ready to shout my answer, but I hesitated. I did have a life, didn't I? New York, my apartment, my research. But when I tried to remember them, to recall something as simple as the smell of my old books, the color of my kitchen walls, the way the city lights glowed at night, there was nothing. Just empty black spaces in my mind. I let out a sharp breath, shaking my head. "No, you've done something to me. You've erased something." Eric's face remained calm. Not erased, replaced. I turned back toward the villagers, my stomach dropping as I saw more paintings now, lined up along the square. Some were old, their paint cracked and peeling. Others were fresh. And at the end of the row, I saw a blank canvas, waiting for me. I staggered back, my throat dry. "No. You are part of the cycle," Eric said gently, "as I was, as they were." He gestured to the identical villagers, and suddenly I understood. They weren't people, they were remnants, copies of those who had come before, trapped echoes of their former selves. I wasn't the first. I wouldn't be the last. I couldn't breathe. My pulse pounded in my ears as the truth settled in, heavy and suffocating. This village wasn't just a place. It was a prison. A machine that swallowed people whole and turned them into something else. Echoes. The identical villagers, the paintings, the way I kept ending up back where I started. It all made sense now. This place didn't just trap people. It replaced them. I took another step back, my gaze locked on the blank canvas waiting for me. Eric sighed, as if he had seen this reaction 100 times before. "It's easier if you don't fight it." I shook my head violently. Number, no, I don't accept this, I won't. I turned and ran, not toward the forest, not toward the road, but deeper into the village. If running in circles was part of the trap, then I had to break the pattern. Doors blurred past me as I sprinted, my mind screaming for a way out. There had to be something, a weak point, a way to shatter whatever this was. And then I saw it. A small wooden house at the edge of the village. Not special, not marked, but something inside me knew. I bolted toward it, my fingers fumbling at the latch. Locked. Behind me, I heard the villagers moving, the soft padding of footsteps on dirt. They weren't running. They knew I had nowhere to go. Desperation surged through me. I grabbed a nearby rock and smashed it against the latch, splintering the wood. The door creaked open. I stumbled inside, slamming it behind me, my breath ragged. The room was small, just a bed, a table, and a large wooden chest at the far end. A deep unease settled in my stomach. I stepped toward the chest, my hands shaking. Something inside me whispered, "You don't want to see what's in there." But I had to. With trembling fingers, I lifted the lid. Inside, stacked neatly like forgotten belongings, were clothes. Dozens of them. Tunics, trousers, boots. Some old, worn. Others newer. Each with a name embroidered into the fabric. I reached for one, my breath catching in my throat as my fingers traced the letters. Daniel Foster. I jerked my hand back as if burned. My vision blurred. My mind screamed against the reality pressing in. Dozens of sets of clothes, dozens of names, all mine. A wave of dizziness hit me. I stumbled back, gripping the edge of the table to steady myself. I had been here before. I had forgotten before. And I had become someone else, over and over again. The villagers weren't just strangers. They were me. The hum outside grew louder. The cycle was starting again, and I was next. The hum outside deepened, vibrating through the wooden walls, through my skin, through my skull. It was inside me now, wrapping itself around my thoughts like invisible chains. I clutched the table, my breathing shallow, staring at the pile of clothes with my name stitched into the fabric. Not just one name, not just one set. Dozens. How many times had I stood here? How many times had I realized the truth only to forget again? My fingers trembled as I gripped the edge of the wooden chest, my body refusing to move. Think, Daniel, think. But my thoughts were unraveling. I could feel it happening, the way my mind was slipping away, memories vanishing like footprints in the tide. New York, my apartment, my life. It was fading, dissolving into something else, something that had happened before. A cycle. Number, I refused. I pushed myself away from the chest, staggering toward the door. I had to get out. I didn't care if the village looped me back. I would run. I would fight. I would tear this place apart if I had to. I wrenched the door open, and they were waiting. The villagers stood in a perfect circle around the house, their identical faces illuminated by torchlight. The hum rose and fell, steady, patient. They were waiting for me to break, for the realization to take hold, for me to become one of them. Eric stood at the front, his expression unreadable. "It's time, Daniel." I shook my head, my vision swimming. Number, I'm not like you. I'm not like them. Eric sighed. "That's what you said last time." A wave of nausea rolled through me. My hands curled into fists. "I don't believe you." "You don't have to," Eric said. "But it doesn't change anything." The villagers stepped closer, their hum turning into something almost melodic. The sound seeped into my bones, into my mind, pulling me toward them. I tried to move. My body wouldn't. I wanted to fight. I wanted to resist. But something inside me, something deep, wanted to let go. And I didn't know if that part of me had always been there, or if they had put it there. The faces around me blurred, my memories blurred. I reached for my name, for my past, for anything that made me Daniel Foster. But there was nothing, just echoes, faint, distant voices of the ones who had come before. And the last thing I heard, before everything faded, was Eric's voice. Quiet, final. "Welcome home, Elias." The cycle continued, and I forgot.